Welcome back to another episode of Filthy Hope. If it's your first time here, welcome. We're so glad you're with us. On this show, we spend time in the grey spaces where Jesus, life, and culture intersect. I'm your host, Jonty, and I'm joined by a guest this week, Bec Swain. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Jonty. I'm very excited to be here.
Thanks. We always appreciate guests giving up their time, so thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no, I'm very pleased. I follow you guys, so, and obviously we're friends, so it's an honor in many senses. So yeah, I'm really excited. And
you are no stranger to the podcast mic either.
Yes.
Tell us about Zap before we get stuck in.
So yes, I do have a podcast called Zap the Podcast. It is a comedy / weird news podcast where my friend Jono and we talk about all the weird and wonderful news stories that are out there. It's quite silly. In fact, our most recent episode, I would say, is our silliest one yet. I'm not quite sure how we ended up where we did, but you'll have to listen to it to find out. But yeah, no, it does. I'm loving this mic. We don't have as fancy of a setup as this. So yeah, no, it's good. But yeah, check it out. It is not quite like Filthy Hope.
Bit different.
Different, but it's good to, spice things up, have a bit of variety. So yeah, if you're feeling like a laugh, I would definitely go and check it out.
I think one of my favorite episodes, it would have been a while ago now, was it a digger that he tried to dig out an ATM out of a wall with the digger and then drove off with the ATM in the carry bit in the front?
Yeah.
Are there any, does anything stand out as the craziest news story that you've... I mean,
there's so many. We've just recorded our 200th episode.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, Jono and I find when we're talking about stuff that's happened in previous episodes, we can't remember a thing. Yeah. We're like, have we done this before? But no, I think one of the ones I always think about was someone stole a car and they were driving away with the stolen car, and they decided one thing that they were going to do was just pull into the Macca's drive-through and order something while they were in a police chase.
It's hungry work running away from the police,
exactly.
I guess.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, well, why not? You're already committed a crime. You may as well go down with a Big Mac in hand.
Absolutely.
And that is where they got caught as well, which I loved. But yeah, I think they'd also ran through 10 red lights or something. So they were just racking up all the crimes, and then were like, I need a cheeseburger.
I'd committed one crime. What's another on top of that? Yeah.
Now time for a food crime. Crime on my diet. But yeah, no. So there's so many weird things that people do. And that's the great thing. We're never going to run out of content because people keep doing weird stuff. So there's never any shortage of weird news stories, which is great.
Yeah. So definitely recommend. I always talk to my dad. He's like, I just spend so much time walking. I need more podcasts to listen to. So I have this weird ritual where I'll just recommend podcasts to Dad every couple of weeks.
Love it.
So if you need another podcast, Zap the Podcast. Highly recommend.
Yes.
It's good fun. And congrats again on 200 episodes.
Thank you.
That's huge. I think this will be episode 150 something, 52 maybe.
Yeah, so congrats as well.
Thank you.
That's huge.
We're not quite at 200 yet, but we're... Yeah. Have you been roughly doing an episode a week the whole time? So what's that? Four-ish years?
Yes. I think we had one little break, and we always have a break over Christmas.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been over 4 years.
Yeah, wow.
Which is pretty wild.
Yeah. I think you may not remember this, but I think I ran into you and Jono planning Zap.
Yes, at Replay. Was
it
that cafe?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was our first planning meeting.
So what was the initial idea for Zap, and how did it start?
So Jono and I actually met because when I was in uni, I was doing marketing and media. That was my degree. And for the media part, we were able to choose different subjects. And one of the ones that I chose was radio production. And through that, one of my good friends knew that I was into that, and he'd started doing community radio. So I just turned up one day to fill in for someone, and the producer there was like, oh, you sound great. Do you want to do this every week? I was like, heck yes, I do, because it was so much fun. So then she was like, oh, there's a spot on Wednesdays. And so I just turned up and met this guy, Jono, who'd been doing it for a year or two, I think. And we honestly just like hit it off right away, and we were like laughing so much. We had all these like weird in jokes. We were doing segments. So we did like 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. every Wednesday for about a year and a half,
wow.
I think, doing this breakfast show.
Yeah.
And we don't know who listened. I know my mum listened. I think Jono's dad listened, but we would just have the best time. And so then when I started working full time, I had to unfortunately stop because I just couldn't make it work. And then we kept saying, oh, we should do a podcast. We should do a podcast. And then like most good podcasts, when COVID hit,
Yes.
we were like, we're not doing anything else. Like, let's record. So then that's, when we met up and just started chatting. And one thing we did a lot on radio was just talk about weird news articles we'd seen online. Because, as I said, there's so many out there. And so, we just kind of ended up, that's why it's formatted a bit like a radio show where we have like the intro and then we do like a game, like a personal story segment and all that stuff. So, a lot of the segments were inspired by things we already did and we just were able to fit it into a podcast format. But, that's like 4 years, like you'd think we would have either ran out of content or like got sick of it or sick of each other. But I think because it's just so fun and it's so like, we just always have a good time. There's stuff to laugh about and we do enjoy doing it and like producing content in that format, as I'm sure you can understand as well. Yeah. And just having a yap. We love it. So it's really fun. And I think that's how it basically started was we just loved that specific niche of like people doing weird things and laughing at just the minds of people and the things that we do.
So a lot of it is just absurd. It's that absurdity thing where it's like, what goes through someone's head to make that decision? And
exactly. And I think that's what I like about it as well because I do a lot of those. I do a lot of weird things. I'm not committing crimes.
You just don't end up on the news.
Like in my day-to-day life, a lot of weird stuff seems to happen to me and I like having an outlet to share it as well. And I don't know if it's because I have that lens of like looking at, like I'm always looking out for like, wait, that is actually so weird that happened to me that I then have a lot of stuff to talk about. But it's very fun.
And Try It Live.
Yes.
Maybe explain to our listeners what that is first and then I want to
So Try It Live is the segment that we came up with because we noticed out in the supermarkets there's often weird products that come out and it started, I think the first one we maybe did was when like, I can't remember if it was M or Oak, like one of the milk brands released a super duper flavored milk. I think that was one of the weird first ones. And it just opened our eyes to then seeing all of these brands release these weird, very obscure products, often collaborations. And so what we do on the podcast is we say, we'll try it so you don't have to because everyone's probably curious, what does super duper flavored milk taste like? But I'm never going to spend my own money on that. So we do spend our own money on that and then, try it on the podcast, give our honest rating and say, we often use the phrase like, is it worth getting out of bed for? And so, we give it a rating out of 5. The latest one we tried this week, because we are around Easter time, was the hot cross bun Kit Kats, which... no spoilers. Okay, I'll give you a spoiler. I think I rated it like a 2.6 or something. Like they were good.
It's a pass mark.
Yeah, it's a passing mark. They tasted like chalk orange, kind of cinnamony. So they did pretty well. But I'm not sure if it's worth getting out of bed for that one.
What's the weirdest thing you've had to try for Try It Live?
The weirdest thing. So Jono actually got this cookbook from like the 1930s, I think, or something. And he made something out of it. So that was was our Try It Live for that week. And it was basically a piece of watermelon covered in like cream cheese and then covered in, it had something else really gross on it, like jam or like, I don't know. It was something savory, I think. And it was one of the worst things I've ever had in my life. Oh no, actually, speaking of Easter, this is the worst thing we've ever had. It was a Big Mac hot cross bun.
Oh,
it was awful.
I think I remember those.
Yeah. It was like it was Coles. It was like special burger sauce hot cross buns.
Yes. Yeah.
And it tasted actually like vomit. Like I remember we toasted them and put butter on it, and I was like, I don't think I can eat this. Like it smelt like warm vomit.
Yeah.
And
not good.
That's what it tasted like as well. So that was the worst.
I have a vague memory of those being in Coles. around Easter time.
Yeah,
And,
no. Abomination.
Actually, you know what it probably was? I think I remember seeing a packet of them somewhere because you had a packet of them
Probably.
around, maybe at church or something. I can't remember. Yeah. Yeah, horrendous.
Yeah, no, would not recommend.
Yeah.
Vovo hot cross buns, on the other hand,
Yeah.
one of the best things I've ever tasted. Would
I
recommend.
don't know if I've had those. Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah. We've just missed the Easter rush,
Yes.
but for next year.
Yes, next year. 'Cause
Although, honestly, hot cross buns are great. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a big, like, eat them whenever.
definitely.
Like-
Because Vovo ones, they came back. They were around last year. They came back this year because they were so good. So keep your eyes out next year because I think they might come back again. The Big Mac ones are never coming back though.
No,
They
I think
were
they've probably
horrible.
got heaps and heaps
Recalled
of emails.
probably, yeah.
Public health, just
Yeah.
like.
One of the emails was from me. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
never make this again.
I used to, I'm going to out my parents a little bit. They used to love a strongly worded email to a company. And now I'm an adult. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I used to be like, what are you doing? Like, they don't care. But now I'm like, no. Like,
Yeah, they deserve it.
they can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I'm not sure what the best place to start is. But I guess a bit of context for our listeners as well who might be meeting you for the first time.
Yes.
We've had your dad on the show,
Yes.
Reverend Phil Swain.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been in and around church your whole life, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Maybe as a way of starting, as a PK, a pastor's kid, as people call it. What are your, because, being around Phil your whole life, obviously it's your dad, church has always just been a thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Can you explain maybe what your early memories of like church is and we'll go from there, I think. Because
Yeah.
I'm really interested, and we've had a couple of emails over the years saying like the whole pastor's kid thing is really interesting. We'd love to get into it. So I think think
Okay.
it could be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Like as long as I can remember, church has been a huge part of my life, obviously because my dad has been a minister as long as I can remember. I was reflecting before today on like my early experiences of church, and I just remember it literally was like my second home because of the fact as well, our first church that my dad was a minister at, the manse, like where the minister lives, was right next door to the church. Like there was literally a path connecting the two.
Yeah.
So it just felt like an extension of my home.
Yeah.
So was what it felt like. And to be honest, that's how it's felt like. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but that's how it's felt like my whole life as well. And so growing up and like those early days, it was basically my whole life sort of was around it. That's where like I made my first friends, was like at church. And I remember after church on a Sunday, we would invite like all of the kids back to our house to like, that was basically like the playground after church, was come back to our house. I remember we would play like Murder in the Dark and my parents would be like, why are you doing this? But yeah, like that was, I think I'm quite a naturally confident person. And I think a lot of that confidence came from the fact that I was a pastor's kid. And so I knew like in the church, I was like, oh, I know everyone and everyone knows me. So I can just like do what I want, essentially. Not that I ever did anything bad, but I just felt like I kind of really fit in.
You didn't
And
have
so-
that barrier of like having to introduce yourself.
Yeah,
as much,
exactly.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. And it also meant that I could talk to like anyone of any age as well, because like people would always come up to me, like people older than me, like obviously all the kids like I knew. But yeah, so that was sort of like my early experiences, was just like it was a very big family.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting feeling, I guess, knowing that everyone knew me as well.
Yeah.
And everyone knew these things about me. Like, your parents always talk about you to people, but then this was like on a whole other scale. I was like, oh, the entire church community like knows a lot of things about me. But at that age I was like, didn't really know what that meant or
It's slightly similar, I guess, but my mum is a GP in the town where my parents still live, where I grew up.
Yeah.
In the suburb. And so like everyone I went to school with, mum was their GP.
Right.
So there was this weird thing where like people I'd never met before, people that were like 4 or 5 years older than me would just be like, oh, how's it going? I'm like, who are you? And they're like, oh, I saw your mum the other day. But then, so they know kind of who I am just because mum knows like everyone in the suburb. So yeah, it's very strange. It's a strange thing. Yeah. Did that ever like develop over time for you? Like that feeling of, because I remember I have a similar thing as well. Dad works in the church, but at like he used to work at a state level.
Right.
So I would often have these experiences of like, it's on the one hand, it's quite nice that everyone kind of knows you, but on the other hand, it's like, oh, you're Dave's kid or you're Phil's kid or Marion's.
Yeah, exactly.
I imagine as you got older, did that start to change a little bit for you, or is it never quite? Because like church is different to work as well. But did that ever change for you?
Yeah, no, good question. I think it definitely helped. I sometimes laugh, and one of my good friends is also a PK, and we always talk about like, are there things we need to like unpack here about being a PK? Because like it definitely, like I've never known the experience of going to a church where or regularly attending a church where my dad hasn't been the minister as well. So it feels like I don't know what it's like not to be a PK. But I think, like to your point, did it change everyone knowing me? I think I sometimes laugh as well. I feel a bit like a Nepo baby. Like not in the sense that I like can do more things in the church, but like that you're quite in the public eye. I don't think though it ever had I don't think it ever had like a negative connotation to it. I think it definitely maybe helped me not be afraid to like ask for things within the church, which I think as I got older, I realized is definitely like a place of privilege, because I know some people in a church might feel like, oh, I really want this to change, but I don't know how to do it. Whereas if I hear someone say something like, oh, well, I wish we could do more of this, or like, I wish, like maybe we should be speaking up about this or doing this. And I'm like, all right, like I'll just tell my dad and
just ask him at dinner or something.
Yeah, literally like after church, I'll be like, oh, Dad, I was like, I don't mention names, but I was like, oh, I was hearing like maybe people want to do this a bit more and like blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, okay, like we can do that. Yeah. So I think as I got older, I realized that everyone knowing you is, sometimes it's a bit weird, but the fact that like I have this direct access to influence is actually something that I can really use to not help me, but help like the people in the church community. And I've been able to see like direct impact of that as well, which is quite cool. And I think, although that's like, I don't want to use that to like benefit myself. I like that I can hear what other people are asking for and not have that fear of asking for that change, which I wish other people could have that as well. But if people don't feel like they can ask for things, then I'll just ask for them for them. So I think, I don't know if that really answers your questions, but like I feel like I learnt how to use that access more the older that I got. Whereas at first I was just like, oh, everyone knows me. This is so nice. And now I'm like, okay, so I actually, the minister is my dad. Like I also have like an ear to the ground of like what people are saying. So hopefully I can make experiences better for people with that access.
Yeah. What you said about obviously being like, this is such an obvious statement, but like being a PK, you've never really been to a church where the minister isn't family.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just struck me as a really interesting statement, because obviously like if I think about my own faith and my own discipleship journey, all that stuff, like obviously my family, my parents, but also my siblings like play a part in that. But I've always also had like an external person like Phil or like whoever else that isn't family. Do you I'm curious, is there, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on how having that quote unquote external minister being family, have you noticed any particular way that has or hasn't affected how you view faith?
Yeah.
Because I actually think, and this is just first thoughts off the top of my head, that having someone external has actually been really, not just a minister, but like other friends and particularly when you're a kid, like youth group leaders that aren't family that are older than you, that aren't your parents are like were really valuable for me. So I don't know. Does that resonate with you? Like, what's that bringing up for you? Are there thoughts that you have around that?
Yeah. So I know, it is super weird. Like people would be like, oh, talk about that with your minister. But when your minister's your dad, and if it's like something maybe, not that I don't want to talk to my dad about anything, but sometimes you do want to talk about it with someone else before you go to your parents. Yeah. So yes, definitely. And I think like sort of going back to like the growing up in the church, being a PK as well, like it didn't really quite click for me that I didn't have that until like mid high school, because that's also sort of when for me it became like not less cool that my dad was a minister, because like in primary school he's my scripture teacher. He was a bit of a rock star. I was like, oh yeah. But then in high school, like people just didn't understand it as much, or maybe I felt like people wouldn't understand it as much, because that's when I became aware that, oh, everyone doesn't go to church, and like not everyone's parents are religious, and not everyone is religious, and not everyone goes to youth group on a Friday either. So then I started like questioning like, it just made me more self-aware of like my faith and the fact that I am so heavily involved in the church as well. And it sort of came at a good time when I was starting to like question like, I've never known anything different other than going to church on a Sunday and being surrounded by my faith as well. And a new youth leader came to our church and she was awesome. We're like fairly close in age. I think there's maybe like 5 or 6 years between us. But at the time, like, it seemed like she was quite older. When you're young, people who are more than 5 years older, it feels like a big gap. And so she actually became like that external source for me, because I realized, that I did have someone older than me that I could go to when I was thinking about things. And she actually brought like a lot of new perspectives on how we should be thinking about things in faith as well. So I feel like she firstly like really challenged me with my faith, and also like got me to think deeper about a lot of things, but also as like a mentor and a friend, like she was someone that I could go to with things that I was struggling with that I felt like I didn't want to really talk to my dad about at the time. So like it was sort of divine timing that she came to the church right at the time when I was like a little bit unsure of my faith. And even as like she stopped being the youth leader there, like she is still that external resource for me. Like I've spoken to you about her before, and she herself is a minister's kid actually as well. So we also have that connection there. But I definitely did need that external source, and she was able to provide that for me, which was really good. And she still does. I still send her paragraphs all the time, and she sends me ones as well. So it's really good.
Yeah, it's always good. Like I think when you're in high school, there's this weird thing where people that are older than you do see them as like they're so much more mature than me, and like they're so much cooler than me. But at the same time, there's also this like, oh, they're older than me, so I don't want to get too close to them, because is it cool to be friends? But like now that we're both in our 20s, like we both have those people that we're still like super close with. But like I think if you told my 15-year-old self like, hey, you're gonna be like super tight with this person when you're an adult, you'd be like, really? Why? He's so much older than me. Like, but
I was like, we don't have anything in common, do we? It's like, oh no.
No, you actually do. And I just think that having that external, and it's like, I like what you said, that it's not that you don't want to talk to your parents about that stuff, but I think sometimes it's good to talk freely about stuff to other people first. It's almost like so you can figure it out before you talk to your parents about it.
Yeah. You're like, am I crazy for thinking like this? Or like, have I done something bad? Like, am I like, and so, you just sort of want to like test it with someone first. And then it's like, and also to figure out what you're thinking. Like, obviously when you're in high school or like even early uni, I really, in hindsight, you're like, I had no idea what anything was or like what I was doing. And so, just being able to chat to someone who had gone through all that before and was able to be like, no, you're okay. Like you'll be okay. And to just figure out what I was thinking as well. And then also getting older, you realize, oh, not everyone also knows what's going on. So that's comforting too.
Yes. It's a weird, generally positive, but very strange experience when you get older. I think it's for me certainly it was like 17, 18 when you realize that the people who were in their early 20s when you were 15 they were your mentor. You're like, oh, they also didn't really know what they were doing. Like,
exactly.
Because now I'm their age and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I'm like, if someone brought to me the things I was bringing to like my friend and mentor, like what on earth would I have said? So yeah, it just like, to put yourself in their shoes. It's like, oh, it's a lot to carry, but they do it with a lot of grace.
Yeah. And so, not to, age you on the podcast necessarily, but we're now in our 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does the being a PK look for you now? Because you don't live at home. Yeah. You're working full time. I imagine it's a bit different now. There's probably heaps of ways you can answer this, but like, how does that look for you now? I imagine that's changed a lot over the years, right?
Well, yeah, I guess like I was thinking about it as well, about how I only have regularly attended churches where my dad has been the minister. And for a lot of people like who are PKs, they also may not have done that. Like there was a time when we left our previous church where I was like I think I was still at uni. So I could have stayed at the previous church. But I think my siblings and I, we sort of, just made the decision. We did stay there for like half a year or a year, just like wrap some things up. But then we made the decision because we were moving house. We were like moving to the manse. We were like, let's just regularly start attending the church that we now go to together. And that my dad is now the minister at as well. And so I'm in hindsight super glad that I made that decision because obviously made a lot of great friends, met my now partner as well. So very glad that happened. But it's weird reflecting like I didn't have to do that. Like I'm an adult. Like I could have made the decision to stay at the previous church. And even now, as you mentioned, like I don't really have to continue going to that church just because my dad's the minister. But I feel like, I did sort of have to look, how can I make my own identity outside of just being the minister's kid, which I feel like I have done, but I don't know if that's been easier for me because I am the minister's kid. So I've been able to like do more things or like get involved in things. Like I honestly don't know, but I think potentially I am I'm definitely at a place where, let's say my dad got called to go to another church, that I would keep coming to this church, which I think, was because I have done a lot of things to really make myself part of the community in a way that, I think I have my own identity outside of being a PK. So, I think that's probably how it's changed, is that I've made more of an effort to build my own impact here and make my own connections, whether it's a church that I want to stay at, even if I'm not the minister's kid there.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think one of the things you said earlier about, because you're the minister's kid, you from a young age kind of had that ability to act on wanting to see change. I think that's one of the things that I particularly admire about you is that when I look at you, I don't see someone that faith is just like a intellectual thing. It's something that you act on. And we could talk about this actually recently. You and another person at our church put on a fundraiser dinner for the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. That's what it's called, isn't it? Yeah, the one down in Melbourne. Has that always been like that thing you were talking about before, about like always just being able to talk to your dad about, I want to see this change, I want to like, and acting on it. Has that always been a big part of what being a Christian is for you, like wanting to see change? And when did that begin for you? Yeah,
so it actually started at my previous church as well. So we were there for, I think it ended up being 13 years. So we were there for quite a long time. And around, I think it was early high school again, I sort of felt like I knew everything, you know, I knew all the stories, I knew all the answers, like God, Jesus, Bible, prayer.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I felt like I knew everything. And so Sunday school sort of for me, like it was hanging out with my friends and also just like saying the right answers so that then you could go and play and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't until like some new, they'd been at the church for a while, but some new people started like leading our Sunday school, and they actually were like, why are you guys just doing these like worksheets and stuff? And like, you obviously know all the stories, you can answer all the questions, but like, what do you guys actually want to do? And we were kind of like, oh, I don't know, like just all we did was do like these worksheets or watch a video or something. And they were like, no, you're young people, you can do things. And so it was actually this couple who sort of made me start thinking about like, yeah, why do we just come to church and, you know, say the right answers and learn the stories? Obviously we're learning like about a bigger meaning, but at that age, like because we weren't listening to the sermons, we would just come out and do activities. So they actually started influencing me and like stirring that passion within me of like, oh, we helping people or like doing things and making change. Like that's actually what Jesus did. Like, yes, he taught, but a lot of what he did was action and was like showing love to everyone, which is like the stuff we've been learning about for years. Obviously I knew that answer, but like I didn't actually know we could do things to help. So I think the first sort of thing we started doing was they were like, wait, why don't we like do a service at church? And we're like, wait, we can do a service at church? Like we could run the whole thing? And they're like, yeah, just do it. So we like planned this whole service. I think the story we did was, oh no, that's right. They were like, we need to pick a Bible reading first. I think around that time we learned that the shortest Bible reading was Jesus wept. Yeah. And so we're like, well, that will be our Bible reading, because how funny would it be if someone can get up and read the Bible reading and it's just Jesus wept and then they sit back down. And
this is the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
Which is longer than the reading.
Yeah, literally. And so we took that funny idea, which like maybe some adults would have been like, don't be silly, like don't do it. But this couple was like, yeah, do it. Like, let's make a whole service about it. And so because they gave us that like freedom and creativity to do it, we put on a banger of a service. We like literally did everything. We did the music, the Bible reading, the sermon, like everything. And so that was sort of the first bit where we were like, hey, like we can actually do things and show our faith in action. And then so the next thing, they were like, okay, cool. So we did something where we helped like our community, but like there's people outside this community that we should be helping too. And so some of the things we did was like we would cut up scarves to like give to Parramatta Mission to then for them to hand out to people who don't have homes in the winter. So that was like the first sort of thing. And then they were like, this was probably around the time as well where I didn't really know what refugees or asylum seekers were, but this couple again like introduced us to what they are and how many there are in Australia and how unfairly they're treated as well. And so I say like we had the idea, but they definitely instilled the idea in us, and we were like, oh, we could do a fundraiser. And that's actually when I first learned about the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. And so then we did like a fundraiser where we made like a bake sale, and we raised, I think it was like $300 for the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, because we did the bake sale at church. And like that, sorry, I know I sort of rambled about that, but like that whole like formative experience of being told like, oh, you can actually do things to make change, and doing things is like a great way to like spread Jesus's love and to show your faith in action. And so ever since that moment, I became like very inspired to do things and to like take action, because again, it's so easy for us to talk about things and to talk about taking action, and to not actually do anything is easy. So like we should be pushing ourselves to take action. So I think that's why I like continue to recently went to like the Palm Sunday rally, which is like a great way to like listen to stories from asylum seekers and refugees, but also to like actively activate for permanent visas for refugees as well. But like the dinner that we raised, I think it was over $1,000. $400.
It's close. It was like
Almost.
closer to two.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it was
maybe
like
it was 2,200.
17 or 1,800 bucks.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe it was over 2,000.
Might have been over two. No, it was because it was 17 or 18 before.
Even before the dinner had started, wasn't it?
Before the cash and the other.
Oh, yes. That's
it,
right.
When
Yeah,
we pulled it all together, I think it was over $2,000.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
a long way since the
Yeah.
bake sale. But yeah, so like stuff like that. And I know people are busy. Like I know it's really hard to do that sort of stuff. So I think as long as I and like people around me can keep doing or like providing opportunities for people to do things like that, or for people to see that it's not that hard to show your faith in action. I think, if people can't do it themselves, then I want to be the person who can provide the opportunities for people to do that. Or even like with the rally, like it's like, I know people are afraid to go on their own. So it's like, if I'm that person that people know they can come to go to those types of things with, like that'll just make me very happy.
So I think it's one of those things where it is really not just going to something like a rally, but speaking out or stepping out and like taking action for something or against something can be really, really daunting if you're doing it like by yourself. But I think the selfish part of it as well, that like one of the benefits of taking part in something as a group is that you feel like you're connecting to something that's bigger than yourself, which is what being a follower of Jesus is really about, is connecting into something that's much bigger than yourself. But I think one of the really excellent benefits of, obviously, other than the huge benefit that you're contributing to in the action itself, whether it's for permanent visas, for refugees and asylum seekers, but in the other direction, it also connects you into a group of people that are like-minded and passionate about something that is contagious. Yeah. Like I remember the first one of the rallies that I went to, I was like, why have I not gone to like all of these? Because it's contagious and it makes you fired up about something that is often just like an intellectual thing that you think about. And until you actually then put it into action with other people, it's like, oh, I get it now. Like this is what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's nice. Yeah. I'm so glad you had that experience as well. Cause it's easy to hear about it and be like, oh yeah, that sounds nice. And then, to actually go, you're like, oh damn, there's like, this is happening. This is stuff that we can help influence now. And even though we're like one person individually, like just going there and listening and learning, then that gives you more resources to come back and share as well. And I think you're right, like the speaking up part is daunting. And so I guess to tie it back to like being a PK, maybe that my confidence in that has come from that, and in church circles and communities like that, I haven't necessarily had that. I mean, it's still scary, like speaking out about stuff, because you never know what people are going to say, but I'm kind of like, well, I can talk about this in church and I'll be okay sort of thing. And I just want to, I know, as I said before, it's like people individually might find it hard to take action. So if I can make it easier for people to take action, then that's great. And that's honestly, back to like the Sunday school and the couple who are our new leaders, like they showed me that there's other ways to like live out your faith rather than just like listening and doing nice things. Like you can actually get fired up and take a lot of action and have a lot of passion. And that's like a huge gift to be able to share and to show Jesus' love and to make really positive change.
I remember a previous youth worker of mine, both of us, both he and I were both, still are very passionate about gambling reform in New South Wales. And I remember I was probably 15, maybe a bit older. And I remember him talking about how some of the leaders were thinking about getting some baseball bats, going into wherever it was and like just destroying some poker machines. And like would be like, we're going to destroy some poker machines. We'll probably go to jail overnight, but we'll make a statement. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, are you allowed to do that? No, you're not, because you'll go to jail. But they're talking about doing it anyway. Like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. And then of course I'm 15, so my parents are like, no.
Nice try.
Like, but and then when I was older, like I think I was 18 or 19, he talked, and they never did it. But like, and they talked about doing it again. And I remember him saying to me like, it's all very well and good for you to say you're a Christian, but like, are you gonna continue to say you're a Christian to the point where it might get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, it's a really, really easy thing to think about intellectually, but when it's like, would I actually happily go to jail for 24 hours?
Yeah.
But then with something like that, you're like, they'll just like put in a new set of poker machines. like how much, you know, you also do have to sometimes weigh up, like, is this actually going to make an impact? And you want to look after your health and your well-being as well. But it was just that thing of like, oh, when the rubber hits the road, am I actually like strong enough to stand by my convictions and like actually act in a way that is congruous to the way that I believe, quote unquote, the things that make me feel nice to think, you know, like, am I actually going to stand up and do that? I remember that being a really, really confronting conversation to have.
Totally.
I was like, oh my gosh, I should probably, think about how I would act. Like I remember we also had, I'll shout him out, Matt Anslow came to, I can't remember, were you at that evening? He came and chatted to us. I think it was here. I won't say where this is because we're on I can't remember on air. But yeah, and he spoke to us about the Love Makes a Way movement. Okay. Which was also about asylum seekers and refugees, and it was during the Abbott administration, which was notoriously horrendous with some of the policy and the way it was treating asylum seekers and refugees. And so it was a non-violent protest where they went to Canberra and sat in the offices and just like made a nuisance of themselves. Like they weren't doing anything violent or anything. And I remember him saying, and this makes me laugh every time, the police were like standing in a circle around him, and it was this group of other Uniting Church and other denominations ministers who were singing hymns.
Love it. Yeah. And
they knew that they were about to get, if not arrested, at the least like moved on.
Yeah.
But the police were so polite, they were waiting for them to stop singing. And so they'd finish a verse and then look around and then just go into another verse. Like
they don't know how long this hymn is.
I think they got to 8 verses of Amazing Grace and just looped back around and started again.
That's so good.
And I was like, I don't know, there's a little teenage punk in me that's like, that's awesome.
Oh,
like,
totally.
You know?
Yeah. I remember hearing, it might have been around the same time or part of the same movement, but my dad was telling me about how there was this thing where if like our church needed to be a safe space for like refugees and asylum seekers to stay, like they would stand out the front basically and like not let people come in to take them. And I remember being like, oh, can I do that? Like that sounds awesome. Like I want to be standing there to not let people come in. But I think I was also like 15 and my dad was like, that's great, but like you actually can't put yourself on the line like that as a 15-year-old. But I remember that was also really inspiring, knowing that there was people in like both my parents and people in the community were like wanting to do that. And again, like basically put themselves on the line for these people that they don't know, but that they know are being treated unjustly. And so I think, having people that we can look up to like that and people you see living out action like that is like, that's awesome. Yeah. I want to do that.
It just, it fires you up and makes you want to do something.
Yeah.
Which I feed off that a lot because I think I am prone to over intellectualizing faith. Like I think, like I remember you before you were saying like you knew all the answers in Sunday school, like you tell the stories. I think I definitely, like you, I've gone to church my whole life and I sometimes get like, I'll call it story fatigue. Yeah. And again, I'm going to say like, I know nothing.
Oh, same.
Like it's like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. But like, I'm pretty good with most of like scripture and like I feel like I'm pretty well across a lot of it and I can talk the talk. I can run a Bible study, I can do all that stuff. But like in my experience, all of that is just fuel. Yes. To then take action. Yeah. And I think I reflect sometimes and go, there have been periods where I've gone probably too deep down that rabbit hole without the outlet of like doing something. Like uni was probably one of those for me. So even if it's just like once a year or once every 6 months, taking like some big action. I found just it stops me feeling restless because
definitely, and you can learn things that can only be learned from doing
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like same as you, like even though I knew all the answers to say in Sunday school, like as I get older, I also realize, I actually knew the answers to the surface level story that we were taught in Sunday school. Maybe I didn't actually know what it meant. So there's a lot I still have to learn, and I'm learning from like the scriptures that I learned from like teaching and stuff like that. But then, going out and doing things or talking to people or learning more about things that are happening in the world is when I grow a lot as well. And the fact that all that stuff is fuel as well, that's a really, really good point. Yeah.
There are so many things that we can care about in the world and so many things that we can get fired up about and want to change, to the point where I know lots of people can get overwhelmed by like where do you even begin? On a global level, you look at the number of conflicts that are happening and you're like, where do I start? Like, how do you manage, like some people call it compassion fatigue?
Yeah.
Is that something that you think about? And like, how do you, it feels weird. And I'm not going to say the word prioritize, but like, how do you organize what you devote thinking time and compassion to? Because there's like, if you can't be compassionate about everything because it's impossible. There's just too much. Yeah.
That is a really good point. And it's something that I do struggle with because I obviously would like to know all there is to know about like all of the conflicts that are happening and ways that I can support. And I do try, but it's impossible to get to that point. So I think refugees and asylum seekers, I'm very passionate in particular about supporting and advocating for like rights and the removal of injustice. And so I think having that is something that I'm very focused on, definitely, helps, or I'm like constantly supporting that. Also like removing injustice for like Aboriginal people and Indigenous people in Australia. I think that's another cause that I really do want to learn more about and continue to support and advocate for as well, because that is, like both are things that are happening in Australia and that I want to continue to support, but globally as well. I do try and stay at least informed about what's happening. And again, this is why it's helpful to follow like organizations who speak up about these things or individuals who speak up about like international conflict and things like that, because I consume a lot of information through social media. So by following accounts that do talk about that, or at least like, speak up about it, that helps me stay informed. And if there are organizations that I can donate to, like I definitely will also. But I think, having like causes that are, that I support and like very closely, but also just making sure that I can stay informed by following media sources, I suppose, that do just provide that information that I can stay on top of. But I'm always looking for like new ways to learn more, but I know it's very hard. Yeah.
There's I remember I was talking about this, like we can often feel like, it's so big and scary that I like, for example, like the conflict happening in Gaza has so many religious, historical and political like ropes tied in amongst each other over such a long time that it can be really intimidating to like, I don't know anything about it. I don't even know where to begin. So I'm just not going to look into it.
Yeah.
That is such, and this person I was talking to was saying, if you're able to not do, like if you're able to go, I don't need to look into that. That is such a privileged position. Yeah. And he was just saying it's never too late to just learn. Yeah. Even just a bit. Yeah. And he gave me a book that I've read a couple of times now. Just about the history of Palestine. Yeah. And I don't know the ins and outs of the entire political and religious history of that area, but I know a bit more now. Yeah. And I think that's a really valuable message to hear, is being able to switch it off and not learn about it is a massively privileged position to be in. And then B, you don't have to learn everything.
Yeah.
Like just start with a bit,
exactly.
and then a bit more, and then a bit more, and just be curious.
Yeah.
Because just being able to go, I'm on the North Shore in Sydney. I don't have to know about what's happening in Palestine. Like, you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
there's there's nothing stopping you from Googling. Like, there's so many resources out there. And yeah, as I said, Instagram is like a big way that I consume information. And so same as you, like obviously what's happening in Gaza is something that I want to know a lot more about, because I recognize there's a lot of injustice happening there. And so like it's the least I can do to try and learn more. And so it's great that like you're also doing the same. And I think, like what your friend said, it's like when people are saying, like in Australia, we have an election coming up and some people are like, I don't care about politics. I don't follow politics. It's like, you don't realize how privileged you are if you don't have to care about politics, because for a lot of people, who are like marginalized or they don't have that privilege to not care. So again, it's the least we can do to try and understand like what the parties are doing, like what we're actually supporting, and like how can our vote, like sure, maybe your vote doesn't matter for you, but it will matter for someone else. So that is another thing that gets me fired up when people like, can just sit comfy and not have to care, because we do live privileged lives. So how can we use that privilege to educate ourselves, educate others, and lift others up? I think that's, again, I think it's the least we can really do. Yeah.
I'm just going to pull this up because and I'm going to shout out Leichhardt Uniting Church in the process, but they have a, like one of the messaging, what are they called? The notice boards, like with like the slidey letter things.
Yes.
And it's just in relation to like Australian democracy and the election coming up, like I often hear people say, politics and religion don't mix. And generally I think there's a lot to the idea of keeping religion and state separate. I think that's a whole other topic. Yep. But like to say that Christians shouldn't be involved in politics because Jesus wasn't political, I think is like such a misnomer. And where is it here? Yeah. They put up this passage from Philippians 2 verse 4, which says, "Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others." Hashtag election 2025. That was Leichhardt Uniting. Put that one up. There's so much in that, in like being in a privileged enough position to be like, I actually don't care, so I don't have to really think about what my vote does. Whereas actually as Christians, as I hope this conversation has somewhat illustrated, actually should give us the passion and energy to look to where injustice is impacting other people and take action for that. So like the idea of not really having to worry about your vote when you could be going, who are other people that my vote can actually positively impact?
Big one.
I get really get really annoyed when people are like, don't worry about it. Like nothing will change. I'm like, nothing will change if you don't use your vote.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Yeah. Thanks for being so open and to share all this stuff. Any final thoughts that you wanted to hit on that we feel like we missed? I mean, there's so many things we could talk about.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we could keep going for hours. I think. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I'd probably want to leave with is that I do not claim to know everything. I will never claim to know everything. But what I would encourage anyone to do is I think the last point we probably left on is a big one. Like if you feel like you're in a position where you could do something to help someone else, or even learn more about what you can do to support other people, or to seek out how you can help injustice. There are so many resources out there. Feel free to DM me on Instagram if you I don't know where to start, because I feel like that's a big thing as well. But yeah, we are so lucky to be in a position where we can help other people, and that is how, as Christians, how we should be living as well. So yeah, that's probably, I feel like we've covered a lot today.
Yeah. The other thing I'd add to that is the more I the older I get, the more I think this is true, that like your output as a human being is directly related to your input.
Mm-hmm.
And I think reading good books, following good outlets on socials, having like being intentional about the people you hang out with and the conversations you have. Like if you're putting good stuff in, that'll change the stuff that comes out as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a good point. Like, don't be afraid to chat about this stuff with the people around you because, a lot of what I do is because I was influenced by other people who like sort of instilled that passion in me or who maybe challenged me on things. It's good. It's hard to do it alone. So it's, as you were saying, it's like good to get together with people and see how you can take action together as well.
Yeah. That's one of the, to go all the way back to the beginning. That's one of the great things about growing up in church communities.
Yeah.
You always have a bunch of people around you. That,
definitely.
In my experience, if you got an idea and you tell someone, all of a sudden you've got 5 people like, great idea, let's do it. It's like, I didn't think we were actually going to do it. Like,
exactly. So
find a group.
Yeah.
It's the way to go. To wrap this up, we often ask our guests if they've been watching or reading or listening to anything good recently. Seen anything cool recently or?
Yeah, I think similar to you, I did finish Severance recently, which was fantastic. I also finished White Lotus.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, it was really good. Some people had thoughts about this season, but I always love the slow burn and then the big build up at the end.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy that. But I'm constantly rewatching shows as well, and the one I'm rewatching at the moment is 30 Rock.
Oh, okay.
It's very funny, very quick, very silly. It's good like if you've had a long day and you just need something goofy on in the background. That's what I'm watching at the moment. In terms of books, I'm reading actually one by Lucinda Price, who goes on Instagram as Frooms. And the book is All I Ever Wanted Was to Be Hot. And it's basically about her growing up in like the early, or I think the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, and like how the media and not so much social media at the time, but like TV, magazines influenced her and the need to, or like basically her hyper awareness of her and her body and the choices that she made about that and what she learned. So it's a good read. It's a very good read. I haven't finished it yet, but it's actually in my bag right now. But that's what I'm reading at the moment.
Awesome. The book that I'm just Googling the other author, the book that I will shout out is related to what we've been talking about that I mentioned is called On Palestine. Noam Chomsky, who most comms students that did comms at uni will know, Noam Chomsky, On Palestine. It's a dialogue between Noam Chomsky and Ian Pape is I think how his name is pronounced, Pappe with a little asterisk, a little accent on there. If people are interested, it's like 130 pages. It's really quick and it's kind of interview format, but they talk in big chunks of text.
Yeah,
they just go back and forth with differing opinions and perspectives. It's really interesting.
I will actually shout out as well an Instagram account I follow, which is called Eye on Palestine, and there's a broadcast channel that I'm part of, and they post daily updates, and so that's a really good resource as well. But also the one we were talking about before, the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. Yes. They're a great one to follow too if you're interested in learning more about how you can support asylum seekers and refugees in Australia. They do very amazing work. So that's a good one to follow as well. Yeah.
I will put all of those links in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube in the description. So if any of that stuff piques your interest, all those books, all those websites and follows on Instagram, I'll put all that down there. Thanks again for being here, Bec.
Thank you so much. I know we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we really read that today.
No, it was really good. Thank you.
And where can people find you and Zap?
Yes. So again, Instagram is probably the best place. So if you want to reach out to me, I think I'm just Bec Swain on Instagram, or Zap is Zap the Podcast on Instagram. Would love to know if you listen. Maybe don't start with the latest episode because I said that one was a bit rogue.
Yeah.
Go somewhere in the middle and work your way. But there's 201 to choose from. So
Yeah. And congrats
awesome.
again on 200.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And congrats on 150.
Yeah, thank you. All right. That does us for this week, I think. Thanks for being here, Bec.
Thanks, Jonty.
And thanks to our listeners.
thank
we
you.
will see you guys next week.
Bye.
This is a prayer for the people who want to give up, who have been hurt beyond repair and cannot bear to see your face in anything. Find peace in letting go of the guilt that isn't yours, and find hope in understanding. Life is not a game you have to win. Forgiveness overwhelming, salvation not deserving. You are loved by something beyond, someone beyond understanding. Drink deep.